Exposed, the most corrupted black pastor in South Africa. What if the very people we trust to guide our souls were the ones betraying our faith for fortune? In South Africa, some of the most powerful pastors have been exposed for exploiting devotion, laundering millions, and manipulating vulnerable followers. From staged miracles to luxurious lifestyles funded by blind trust, these stories will shock you and make you question everything you thought you knew about spiritual leaders. Before we dive in, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because at Legends of Black Excellence, we uncover the truth, celebrate real heroes, and reveal the stories others are too afraid to tell. Alan Boesak. Alan Boesak is a name that resonates deeply in the history of South Africa's struggle against apartheid, a man whose voice once thundered against oppression and injustice. Born in 1946, Boesak rose to prominence as a charismatic clergyman and anti-apartheid activist, earning respect both domestically and internationally for his unwavering commitment to human rights. He was often seen standing alongside figures like Archbishop Desmond Tutu, passionately advocating for equality and fighting for the voiceless. For decades, he was not merely a religious leader. He was a symbol of moral courage, a beacon of hope for a nation shackled by systemic injustice. However, Boesak's story is not solely one of heroism. In the late 1990s, the narrative took a darker turn. Investigations revealed that millions of rands donated by well-meaning individuals to support charitable projects for children and disadvantaged communities were misappropriated. Funds intended for humanitarian causes instead ended up routed through Boesak's personal accounts. The very hands that once held protest placards against government corruption were now implicated in financial misconduct. It was a bitter irony. A man who had condemned greed publicly was accused of practicing it privately. The revelations shocked his followers and left many questioning the integrity of a figure they had once revered. Boesak faced a legal reckoning in 1999. The courts found enough evidence to convict him of fraud and theft, resulting in a prison sentence of just over a year. His public image suffered immeasurably. The halo of moral authority that once defined him seemed irreversibly tarnished. Yet his legacy remains complex. How do we reconcile the man who fought tirelessly for freedom and equality with the one who succumbed to the temptations of financial misconduct? This question lingers for those who admired his early activism. What would you do if a hero you trusted suddenly disappointed you in such a profound way? Despite the fall from grace, Boesak continued to contribute intellectually and morally to public discourse, speaking on issues of social justice, reconciliation, and ethical leadership. His writings and speeches provide insight into the challenges faced by those who wield power, whether religious, political, or social. Many analysts suggest that his story serves as a cautionary tale about the vulnerability of leaders to human frailties and the importance of transparency and accountability, particularly when one commands influence over communities and resources. Boesak's life exemplifies the duality of human nature, the capacity for profound goodness, and the susceptibility to moral failings. His earlier activism undeniably shaped the anti-apartheid movement and inspired countless individuals to resist systemic injustice. Yet the scandal surrounding the misappropriation of charitable funds remains an indelible stain, reminding us that even icons of virtue are not immune to ethical lapses. Alan Boesak's journey is a reflection on leadership morality and the delicate balance between public reverence and personal integrity. A story that continues to provoke reflection and debate among South Africans and observers worldwide. Paseka Motsoeneng. Paseka Motsoeneng, widely known as Pastor Moro, is one of South Africa's most controversial religious figures. Born and raised in the East Rand area of Johannesburg, he built a reputation not through political activism, but through theatrical, larger-than-life church services that drew crowds in the thousands. From the beginning, Motsoeneng presented himself as a man of miracles and divine authority, captivating audiences with his confident oratory and promises of supernatural intervention. His church, the Incredible Happenings Ministries, became a household name largely due to his relentless media presence and the extraordinary claims he made during sermons. Yet behind the flamboyant displays and extravagant promises, serious controversies began to emerge. Motsoeneng's practices often crossed legal and ethical boundaries. In 2011, he was accused of inappropriately touching a teenage congregant under the guise of spiritual cleansing. Later, he made headlines by asserting that he had restored a couple's intimacy and asked them to demonstrate it in front of cameras, an act that sparked outrage across the nation. While many viewed these events as shocking and morally indefensible, his congregation largely remained loyal, convinced of his divine purpose and interpretation of Scripture. Financial irregularities further complicated his reputation. Motsoeneng purchased luxury vehicles, including a BMW i8 valued at over 1 million rand, while owing more than 1.3 million rand to a local bank for unpaid loans. He also solicited donations in the thousands of rands for access to heavenly selfies, claiming he had visited the afterlife and returned with photographic evidence of God's glory. Many unsuspecting followers complied, eager to witness what they believed to be a miracle firsthand. Despite the public scrutiny, Motsoeneng remains influential. His church services continue to attract thousands weekly, with attendees praising his supposed healing powers and bold preaching. Analysts suggest that his story exemplifies the complexities of religious leadership in modern South Africa. The combination of personal ambition, media savvy, and the ability to command devotion from believers. While critics decry his actions as manipulative and morally corrupt, his sustained popularity highlights the enduring power of faith when wielded by a persuasive and unyielding figure. Prophet Lethabo Rabalago. Prophet Lethabo Rabalago is a figure whose ministry in South Africa blurred the line between faith and controversy. Known as the leader of the Mount Zion General Assembly, Rabalago garnered attention not only for his prophetic claims, but also for the unconventional methods he employed to demonstrate divine power. Unlike traditional pastors who rely on scripture and prayer, Rabalago became infamous for dramatic and often startling acts during church services, attracting a wide audience, curious to witness his so-called miracles firsthand. One of the most controversial practices involved spraying an insecticide known as doom directly into the faces of congregants, claiming it possessed spiritual healing properties capable of curing ailments such as cancer and HIV. Videos of these events circulated widely, eliciting shock and disbelief across social media. Despite the dangers and warnings from manufacturers and health authorities, many followers continued to believe that the acts were divinely inspired, standing firmly behind Rabalago, even as criticism mounted. In addition to the insecticide episodes, photos emerged showing him orchestrating rituals where congregants lay on the floor while loudspeakers were placed above them, all in the name of receiving spiritual blessings. These unusual displays prompted public debate. How far can spiritual leadership stretch before it crosses ethical or legal boundaries? Have you ever witnessed or questioned practices in religious settings that seemed extreme yet were widely accepted by believers? Rabalago eventually faced legal repercussions, with courts intervening to halt some of his most dangerous practices and imposing fines for endangering his followers. The closure of certain church activities marked a turning point. Yet it did not erase the loyalty of his congregation, many of whom continued to see him as a man of miracles rather than a source of harm. Analysts argue that this unwavering support reflects a psychological phenomenon in which faith can override rational judgment, especially when leaders present themselves as direct conduits to divine power. The story of Lethabo Rabalago highlights the complex dynamics of trust, influence, and authority in religious contexts. His ministry serves as both a cautionary tale and a testament to the enduring appeal of charismatic figures who promise extraordinary outcomes. For scholars and observers, his rise and controversies underscore the need for accountability, ethical oversight, and critical thinking within spiritual communities. Ultimately, Rabalago's legacy is one of contrasts. a prophet who captivated imaginations and drew multitudes, yet whose methods invited scrutiny and raised serious questions about the balance between faith and personal safety. His life challenges observers to consider the responsibility of spiritual leaders and the vulnerability of congregants who place absolute trust in human intermediaries claiming divine insight. Pastor Colin Davids. Pastor Colin Davids, a South African religious leader, became notorious not for miracles, but for financial deception. Leading the New Direction, Grace Ministries, Davids presented himself as a visionary preacher who could guide his congregation toward prosperity, but the path he offered was far from spiritual enlightenment. Instead, he masterminded a Ponzi scheme known as Platinum Forex, promising his followers guaranteed returns on their investments ranging from 2% to 8% per month. The appeal was simple yet compelling. By trusting him, ordinary church members were told they could transform their financial futures and achieve wealth ordained by God. Over nearly a decade, hundreds of congregants poured millions of rands into Davids' venture, placing unwavering faith in the pastor's assurances. Yet when the promised profits failed to materialize, questions began to surface. Investors were left empty-handed, and their savings vanished without a trace. Despite repeated inquiries, Davids relied on biblical rhetoric, urging patience and faith rather than providing concrete answers. The scheme designed to funnel new investors' money to pay earlier participants ultimately unraveled under legal scrutiny. In 2025, the South African courts delivered a decisive verdict. Davids, along with his business partner Derek Bredenamp, faced 56 counts of fraud, accused of misappropriating approximately 329 million rand, which is nearly 18 million US dollars. Both men were sentenced to 9 years in prison, a judgment reflecting the severity of exploiting faith for personal enrichment. The case serves as a striking example of how charisma and spiritual authority can be weaponized to manipulate trust for financial gain. Despite his fall from grace, Davids' story continues to resonate as a cautionary tale. It illustrates the vulnerabilities within communities that intertwine religious belief and financial ambition, highlighting the importance of accountability, transparency, and critical thinking. For many, the case emphasizes the sobering reality that blind devotion, no matter how genuine, can be exploited by leaders skilled in persuasion and opportunism. Pastor Colin Davids' legacy is a complex one. A man who once promised divine prosperity, yet delivered financial devastation, reminding us that ethical leadership extends far beyond the pulpit. His life challenges both followers and observers to consider the responsibility of placing trust in human intermediaries and to remain vigilant against the misuse of spiritual influence. Timothy Omotoso. Pastor Timothy Omotoso, originally from Nigeria, became a figure of both admiration and infamy in South Africa. Arriving in the country with a Bible in one hand and an ambitious vision in the other, he founded Jesus Dominion International, a ministry that promised spiritual deliverance, prosperity, and divine guidance. Omotoso's charisma, polished public image, and smooth-talking sermons attracted thousands of congregants across the nation. His messages often emphasized holiness, destiny, and personal empowerment, convincing many that obedience to his teachings was a pathway to divine favor. However, behind the sermons and televised charisma, a darker reality unfolded. Court documents and survivor testimonies revealed that Omotoso's ministry employed manipulation and coercion, particularly targeting young women. These women were reportedly groomed and pressured into sexual acts under the guise of spiritual obedience, told that serving the pastor equated to serving God. Is it possible for faith to be weaponized in such a way? Many followers struggled to reconcile the man they admired with the allegations being presented in court. In 2017, Omotoso's abuses caught up with him. He was arrested at Port Elizabeth Airport, facing charges of human trafficking and assault involving multiple young women. Among the victims, some were reportedly minors at the time of the incidents. Survivors recounted being housed in isolated facilities known as disciples' residences, separated from family and coerced into acts framed as spiritual duty. These revelations shocked the nation, exposing the extent to which a religious leader could exploit authority for personal gratification. Despite spending 8 years in jail awaiting trial, Omotosho was released after the prosecuting team failed to present a case beyond a reasonable doubt. His reaction upon release, thanking God and praising His glory, drew widespread criticism, as many viewed it as an audacious display of impunity. The legal outcome ignited debates on the justice system, victim protection, and the accountability of spiritual leaders who misuse their power. Omotosho's story exemplifies the precarious intersection of charisma, authority, and ethical responsibility. It underscores the vulnerability of followers who trust their spiritual leaders implicitly and the catastrophic consequences when that trust is exploited. For observers, it raises critical questions about safeguards within religious institutions. How can communities ensure protection while maintaining freedom of faith? Ultimately, Timothy Omotosho's legacy is one of caution. While he successfully attracted thousands to his ministry and wielded remarkable influence, the harm inflicted on vulnerable individuals remains undeniable. His life story serves as a stark reminder that faith, when manipulated, can be a conduit for control and abuse, and that discernment, accountability, and vigilance are essential for safeguarding congregants against predatory leadership. Prophet Andrew Ejimadu. Prophet Andrew Ejimadu, also known as Sayer I, is a Nigerian-born religious leader who rose to prominence in South Africa and later expanded his ministry into Zambia. Unlike conventional pastors, Ejimadu built his reputation on theatrical miracles and dramatic stunts that blurred the line between performance and genuine spiritual intervention. His services often resembled spectacles combining elements of magic shows, illusions, and prophetic declarations, captivating congregants who eagerly anticipated witnessing the extraordinary unfold in real time. Among his most controversial acts was the infamous display in 2018 where Ejimadu reportedly vomited currency into a female congregant's handbag as a sign of divine blessing. He insisted that cash donations called seeds of faith would result in miraculous financial gains, promising followers that their debts would disappear and wealth would manifest if they complied. In reality, the only account that seemed to benefit was his own, with thousands of rands flowing weekly into Ejimadu's personal funds, funding luxurious clothing and sustaining his flamboyant lifestyle. Authorities eventually took notice. In 2017, while Ejimadu traveled to Zambia, he was arrested for alleged witchcraft and financial manipulation. Reports indicated that his activities were not only deceptive, but also posed a danger to public morality, leading to his permanent ban from entering Zambia. Despite these interventions, Ejimadu continued to operate in South Africa, exploiting the trust of congregants with a blend of charisma, spectacle, and promises of supernatural favor. Ejimadu's story highlights the complex dynamics of spiritual authority and human vulnerability. His ability to combine theatrical entertainment with religious messaging demonstrates the power of persuasion when faith is intertwined with performance. Yet it also underscores the moral responsibility of religious leaders and the devastating consequences when that responsibility is neglected. Many observers see his actions as emblematic of a broader pattern in which spiritual influence can be manipulated for personal enrichment, leaving congregants financially and emotionally exploited. Alf Lukau. Alf Lukau is a South African pastor whose rise to prominence has been marked by both grandeur and controversy. Founder of Alleluia Ministries International, Lukau gained international attention in 2019 when he staged a resurrection stunt that captivated millions on social media. During a live service, he appeared to bring a man back from the dead, an event that drew awe and disbelief in equal measure. The spectacle, however, was later revealed to involve a man who was not deceased, prompting widespread criticism and accusations of deception. Despite the uproar, Lukau's ministry continued to thrive, boasting tens of thousands of members across South Africa and extending to parts of Europe and South America. His services are characterized by vibrant worship, bold prophetic declarations, and the promise of miracles that range from healing to financial blessings. Social media played a significant role in amplifying his image, showcasing his lavish lifestyle, which includes Rolls-Royces, Bentleys, Range Rovers, and luxury private jets, all financed by generous donations from congregants. Have you ever questioned whether flashy displays of wealth and power are signs of divine favor or exploitation? For many of Lukau's followers, the line between faith and spectacle seems blurred. Women attending marriage conferences, for instance, were reportedly charged up to 5,000 Rand, approximately $300, to participate in programs promising spiritual guidance and the opportunity to meet potential husbands. These events, combined with his high-profile social media presence, reinforced the perception of Lukau as a man empowered by God, even as critics decried the commercialization of faith. Lukau's influence extends beyond personal wealth. In 2016, he successfully pursued legal action against a journalist who criticized him, receiving a suspended sentence for contempt of court. This move further highlighted his assertive approach to protecting his reputation and controlling the narrative surrounding his ministry. Analysts suggest that Lukau's strategies, combining theatricality with legal protection and media mastery, allow him to maintain authority and minimize challenges, creating an environment where devotion is intertwined with spectacle. Ultimately, Alf Lukau embodies the duality of modern charismatic ministry, a powerful spiritual figure who inspires hope and devotion, yet simultaneously invites scrutiny for ethical and legal controversies. His story underscores the challenges of distinguishing between genuine miracles and performative acts in the age of social media, where perception often outweighs verification. Lukau's continued popularity, despite the resurrection incident, reflects both the deep-seated desire for divine intervention among followers and the persuasive power of a leader skilled in blending faith charisma and spectacle. Alf Lukau's life is a cautionary tale about the intersection of religion, wealth, and influence. His ministry challenges observers to critically assess spiritual authority, the ethical boundaries of leadership, and the responsibility of both leaders and followers in maintaining accountability. It prompts reflection on how faith can inspire profound devotion while simultaneously being vulnerable to manipulation and spectacle-driven influence. Webert Angel. Webert Angel, originally from Zimbabwe, is a charismatic religious leader whose ministry in South Africa has drawn both admiration and significant controversy. Founder of the Spirit Embassy Church, Angel built his reputation on the prosperity gospel, preaching that faith, obedience, and recognition of God's power could manifest wealth, success, and divine favor. His sermons often emphasized that lack of material provision reflected insufficient belief, while wealth and luxury were seen as signs of spiritual alignment. Angel's dynamic speaking style and polished public persona attracted thousands of congregants, many of whom placed unwavering trust in his guidance. Beyond the pulpit, Angel cultivated a brand that blended faith with business acumen. His followers were encouraged to honor God through tithing and financial contributions, a practice that reinforced the notion that spiritual blessings were intertwined with material investment. However, investigations revealed a more troubling side of his operations. In 2023, as part of a gold mafia probe, evidence emerged showing that Angel used his diplomatic status as a special presidential envoy for Zimbabwe to facilitate gold smuggling and laundering operations. Millions of rands were allegedly moved illegally through Zimbabwe to buyers in the UAE, effectively turning his faith-based influence into a channel for illicit financial gain. Angel's lifestyle further reinforced his image as a man favored by God. He flaunted luxurious vehicles, designer clothing, and private jets, portraying a life of divine prosperity that seemed unattainable for ordinary congregants, yet attainable through loyalty and faith. His messaging emphasized not only personal wealth, but also spiritual empowerment, creating a compelling narrative that resonated with followers seeking hope, stability, and divine guidance. Ultimately, Webert Angel represents a striking example of the power and peril of modern charismatic leadership. His ministry demonstrates how spiritual influence, when combined with media-savvy political connections and financial schemes, can inspire immense devotion while also exposing followers to manipulation. Angel's story challenges both believers and observers to consider the boundaries between faith leadership and personal enrichment. In summary, Hubert Angel's life highlights the tension between inspiration and exploitation within faith communities. His ability to command loyalty, shape perception, and leverage trust underscores the importance of vigilance, discernment, and ethical oversight in religious settings. His story is a powerful reminder of how charisma and spiritual authority can be wielded for both guidance and personal gain, leaving followers and critics alike to navigate a complex landscape of faith, wealth, and morality. Shepherd Bushiri. Shepherd Bushiri, often referred to as Major One, is a Malawian-born pastor who became one of the most high-profile and controversial religious figures in South Africa. Founder of the enlightened Christian gathering church, Bushiri built a reputation through grandiose displays of wealth-televised miracles and a commanding presence that drew tens of thousands to his services. His ministry emphasized prosperity, suggesting that financial success, luxury possessions, and spiritual favor were inextricably linked. Followers were encouraged to give generously, believing their contributions would unlock divine blessings in their own lives. Bushiri's social media presence amplified his influence, showcasing a lifestyle filled with private jets, mansions, designer suits, and luxury vehicles, including Bentleys, all funded by the faith and donations of his congregation. His messaging consistently reinforced the idea that God rewards obedience and generosity, framing poverty as a spiritual deficiency rather than a social reality. For many, this created a powerful psychological connection between devotion and material aspiration. Have you ever questioned whether prosperity teachings reflect divine favor or are simply a tool to control and manipulate? This is the central dilemma surrounding Bushiri's ministry. Investigations revealed that under the guise of prophetic investment programs, Bushiri and his wife Mary engaged in large-scale money laundering and fraud, reportedly misappropriating more than 100 million rand, approximately $7 million USD. Yet even amid legal scrutiny, he maintained a loyal following who viewed the accusations as spiritual attacks meant to undermine God's work. In 2020, Bushiri and his wife were arrested on charges of fraud, money laundering, and theft. During their bail period, the couple fled South Africa, claiming that the government had failed to protect their lives. This audacious escape intensified media coverage and public debate, highlighting issues of accountability and legal enforcement when influential religious figures operate transnationally. Despite the controversy, Bushiri continues to draw large crowds both in person and online, reinforcing the persistence of faith in his teachings and the resilience of his personal brand. Bushiri's ministry exemplifies the complexities of modern charismatic leadership, where spiritual authority, media influence, and material wealth converge. His ability to captivate audiences, command loyalty, and shape perception demonstrates the enduring power of charisma and spectacle in religious contexts. At the same time, the allegations against him illustrate how such influence can be exploited for personal gain, raising critical questions about ethics, transparency, and oversight in faith communities. Ultimately, Shepherd Bushiri's story serves as a cautionary tale about the intersection of faith power and material ambition. While his followers continue to revere him as a prophet, his life highlights the risks of placing absolute trust in human intermediaries, claiming divine authority. His legacy challenges both believers and observers to scrutinize religious leadership carefully, balancing devotion with discernment to ensure that spiritual guidance does not become a conduit for exploitation. The stories of these controversial pastors reveal the complex interplay between faith influence and human vulnerability. While some leaders rise to inspire hope and spiritual growth, others exploit devotion for personal gain, leaving communities fractured and trust shattered. Their legacies force us to question the boundaries of spiritual authority and the responsibility of followers to remain discerning. In a world where charisma can mask deception, How do we distinguish true guidance from manipulation? At Legends of Black Excellence, we celebrate integrity, resilience, and authentic leadership. Yet these stories challenge us to confront the uncomfortable realities hiding behind the pulpit.